So the story so far is that this is still before communism, and Stolypin, who was a minister in the one of the ministers of the Tsar in the government, was a big Sunni Israel, and he was about to level a terrible decree against Yidden. And it turns out that the only way to ashpah him is going to his mentor, this old retired general, Pabye Danashev. So this person, though no lover of Jews, but he was a deeply religious man and respected religious authorities and rabbis. And so the Frierdiker Rebbe went to Petersburg and was able to secure an audience with him. Now, the Rebbe said in the story within the story here that the Frierdiker Rebbe had two identity cards, as a businessman and as a Rav. So here he came as a rabbin, even though, because that's how he was granted the audience, even though he would often travel as a businessman. And now the Rebbe tells a story why, in brackets. Remember, all this story is told by the Frierdiker Rebbe to our Rabbi in Yechidus, which is revealing for the first time in this Farbrengen, Yud Shvat Tavshin Chaf. So the Rebbe says in parentheses, another opportunity the Frierdiker Rebbe explained, spoke about his traveling with his father. It's Mamash Hashgacha Pratis V'hei Tevis. And they would travel outside Russia, often for health reasons and the like. So once the Frierdiker Rebbe is traveling with his identity card as businessman, and for this, the Rebbe Rashab went as a businessman, and the Frierdiker Rebbe went as a Rav. He went as the Rav. So when they came to the border, so the officers, they were given the first class, and they gave a special honor to the Rav and not to the businessman. And again, it's because they thought was the Rav was the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Rebbe Rashab has the business card. So what happened? So the Rav, the Frierdiker Rebbe, is asked to sit down. They give him a cigarette, and his father, Rebbe Rashab, stands. Now he says the Frierdiker Rebbe would not smoke in front of his father. And there was obviously never such a thing that the Frierdiker Rebbe would sit in his father's presence. But in this case, they couldn't refuse and to not accept the honor of the officers there at the border, because they wanted to, why? They wanted to find grace in their eyes. And he explains why the Rebbe Rashab was going as a businessman, and sometimes the Frierdiker Rebbe did. Why? Because it was the custom of Frierdiker Rebbe to travel, when he traveled, to buy Svarim, Res Svarim. And to bring him across the border, he had to have, a favor in the eyes of the customs officers. They should not want to hold him back because these are precious books. So that's why when he told him to sit, if he gave him a cigarette, he had no choice but to sit and to smoke the cigarette. The Rebbe concludes, and on this occasion, the Oratim gepackt. Here the Rebbe Rashab had special havna in seeing this, looking how the son of the Rebbe Rashab is sitting, and the Frierdiker Rebbe said later he was sitting, half standing, and smoking a cigarette. And the Rebbe Rashab had a great hana from this, that his son was sitting and he was like serving secondary to his son. It doesn't explain, but this was a big hana that the Rebbe Rashab had. Like he got this special moment. It was a special gift that his son is sitting and he's standing. And the Rebbe continued the story. Okay, back to the story. just want to say, because I'm clear, because you said before that sometimes the Fitgep would go as a businessman and sometimes as a Rav. Yeah. He tells a story of the time when he was the Rav. Now here he's also the Rav on this occasion as well. Okay, back to the story. So the only time that this Pabia then not Shav would see him is Friday night after his meal. So because the Fitgep went through such tremendous effort to get this appointment, there's no choice but to meet him as he wanted. At that time, this retired general lived outside the city, in a suburb of Petersburg, a few parsois, a few miles from the city proper. So therefore, and the reason he says because he was no longer retired, and he was also older, and if he didn't live he didn't have any official title anymore in government. And there were no Jews there at all. Now, Petersburg, capital of Petersburg and its surroundings, in those days, Jews couldn't live altogether. It was outside the pale of settlement, as it was called. Even though there were some Jews, but they had special license. They were very high businessmen, doctors, and the like. And sometimes Jews could stay in the city through these, getting some eitzah through them, and stay with them. But in this suburb, there's not one Jew that lived there that the Fitgep could spend Shabbos with. So it comes Friday night, it's a winter, it's 4:00, or even earlier. In Petersburg, that's when Shabbos comes in. And so therefore, the Fitgep had to find a place they could stay all the time till the appointment. You couldn't walk on the streets. Number one, it was very cold. And secondly, you're inviting, who are you? Why are you here? It was dangerous from every perspective. So therefore, after that meeting, for the entire Shabbos till after Havdalah, then he could take a train or a carriage. He had to find a place to stay. So there's no Jewish home in the entire area, and no hotel. And even if there was a hotel, a Jew couldn't stay there. Unlike hotels in the city itself, you could find a solution. The only place that the Fitgep could be was in a tavern. And even though they'd have to be there amongst the drunken Russians and to make himself like he's participating with them, that he should, they're going to give him liquor to drink. He has to make himself like he's drinking for 24 hours, and especially on Shabbos. And this is, of course, the big danger, to be amongst them, drunk over for the whole Shabbos. And they were renowned, obviously, for their hatred of a Jew. And so the Rebbe says the Fitgep stayed in this tavern for the few hours till the meeting, and then he met with him, and he was matzliach. He came back to the tavern and spent the entire Shabbos till Motzei Shabbos there. So the Rebbe concluded the story, and he said, why did my father not to tell the story at all? And he certainly wasn't telling the story in order to boast. Firstly, he wasn't shaykhs the guy, and secondly, if he wants to boast, there's many other stories he could have said, which he hasn't. I guess I was kind of smiling. And he told us in Yechidus, and it could be that it says probably this is the first time that this story is being revealed. But the story is a lesson, because this whole conduct could have been easily rationalized, that it has no place. If heaven made exeda that it should happen, so no shtadlus is going to help by the minister, by the general. And if l'mayla, the exeda, whether it should be in this battle, then you don't need a shtadlus. You don't need any effort. And why would he put himself in danger, and also not davening with a minyan and having aliyah and my mechsidis and learning Torah, b'yachid, b'rabim, and been spending Shabbos in this environment? The answer is there's no cheshbonos, like Purim, like Hanukkah. The Gzeira touched the Etzem HaNefesh. And there's no calculations of cheshbonis. Everything is done that even if the efforts are in grave, serious doubt whether they'll be successful. And therefore the lesson is that a pain of another Jew, a tzar gashmi, much more so a tzar ruchni, spiritual pain, has to touch one of the Etzem HaNefesh and to arouse one to effect and respond without cheshbonis. And if that means to descend, again, connected to the Maimed, to descend, as it were, to save another Yid, it's all obviously worth it, and that it is the whole kavanah. Dear friends, have a wonderful Shabbos.